Yo, what's up, guys? It's the MMA Analyst here to give you my recap for UFC on Fuel 2, Gustafsson versus Silva. Overall, I'd say a pretty decent night of fights. Let's get right down to it. Gustafsson over Diego Silva. Basically, Gustafsson did what most people thought he would, which was keep Silva at bay with jabs, striking, etc. He actually hurt Silva early in the fight and just never looked back. Question, are we doing 3 rounds or 5 rounds? I remember Dana was like, oh man, we messed up big time with that one fight. I forget what one it was. And he was like, it's 5 rounds from now on. I mean, I don't even know why I pay attention to anything he says. I mean, it's I don't want to say it's your organization. You own the smallest percentage of the UFC, which is still worth, for you, at least $100 million. But the point is, you are a part of and are the figurehead of the biggest mixed martial arts organization in the world, and you keep telling us all this different stuff. Is it 3 or 5, Dana? 3 or 5? What's the deal for the main events? I don't even know until it happens. And I go, oh, I guess the fight's over because it's not the 4th round. Anyways, Gustafsson did what he needed to do. I love mixed martial arts. I love MMA, but man, I can't stand hype. I can't stand hype. They were from the very beginning made it very clear that they wanted to make Gustafsson out to be the next contender. God, no, he'll get raped by Jon Jones. And I'm pretty sure he'd have some very serious problems against a lot of other skilled wrestlers. Not, Matt Hamill, whatever, right? Like, honestly, Matt Hamill has always been Ultimate Fighter hype. So I don't want to hear about it. But, like, somebody like Rashad Evans, who is getting his title shot, it's not like Gustafsson should fight Rashad Evans. But there's just a lot of guys I think that Gustafsson is in a lot of trouble against. A lot. And, he already lost to Phil Davis. It was definitely, a younger, 2 years ago version of Gustafsson. And he's improved a lot since then. But I don't see him really as a title contender. I don't see him outstriking somebody like Machida. I see him looking like he knows a lot like what he's doing and like he's in the right direction. But I don't see him being able to strike with Machida. I don't see him being able to not get taken down and laid on by somebody like Rashad Evans. Maybe there's not a lot. Jon Jones will rape him. I think Dan Henderson beats him. So, not that he's whack, because he's definitely top 10 at this point. But, should he get a title shot? Is he one fight away from the title shot? Maybe he is, because the division is not exactly what people say, or what they want you to believe, but it's not a deep division. It's kind of like most of the divisions in the UFC, limited in top challenges for the title holder, So I don't know, what should he do next? If it wasn't up to wins and losses and all that stuff, that does make sense. I would like to see him against Machida, who seems like he hasn't fought in forever. If Jon Jones beats Rashad Evans, then I don't think he should get a title shot. I think Dan's getting the title shot anyways. So I don't know. I would like to see him face a tough contender that's somewhere near the top that has decent wrestling. Thiago Silva is not a contender. Vladimir Matyshenko is not a contender. Matt Hamill is not a contender. These guys really never have been contenders in the UFC. James Tahuna, not a contender. Cyril Diabate, not a contender. Phil Davis, not a contender. And I don't care what they try to tell you, I don't think he ever will be a contender because he's just too afraid to fight. He's done well. Anyway, he lost to Phil Davis, but he's done well. But ready for a title shot right now? No. And stop saying he's like Jon Jones. As much as I don't like Jon Jones, just moving your hands around and having competent footwork and above average striking or even maybe good striking doesn't make you Jon Jones. That's what I gotta say with that. But anyways, good win for Gustafsson. Brian Stann versus Alessio Sakara. It is what it is. Brian Stann's got that power. He landed the strikes. Sakara lasted a little longer than I thought he would after he got initially hit. And then, as much as I talk about Brian Stan, like I'm not a fan of the hype, which I've said about a lot of people. I mean, the dude, as soon as Sakara was out, he was like, that's enough, right? I don't need to smash him 4 or 5 more times, which he could have. The referee would have let him hit him 4 or 5 more times, and he was unconscious. He did wake up. And then Brian Stan was like, you're not going to make me put him out again, are you? And the ref was like, nah, you're good, homie, you're good. So, I mean, mad props to Brian Stan for showing very good sportsmanship. Basically, I think it was the opposite of that. Who was the guy who was showing no kind of... James Head, I think it was. Really bad sportsmanship. I don't know if Pepe Abedi was talking trash, if he banged somebody that he knows, if he owes him money. I don't know what's going on, but James Head was really, really just like out of control, it seemed like, just attitude-wise. But whatever. Good job, Brian Stan. You got the win. You just got to work on your wrestling. I would love to see you beat, some top competitors because, we do need to have actual top guys rather than they tell us somebody is a contender. Brian Stan's not a contender. But if he could beat some wrestlers, then he would be. So work on that part of your game. Do your thing. Congrats. Good win. And really good sportsmanship. Oh, in the fight, there was something after the UFC I never watched. It was like, post UFC, and it had Mark Munoz and Chael Sonnen and Jay Glazer. That was one of the most unprofessional looking. Like, it looked alright. I mean, but those 3 together, it was just so corny. And they were interviewing Brian Stan. And they were just slobbing him down. It was crazy. I'm like, ask some real questions. And like Munoz, hey man, it was like Munoz is a great guy, like from what I see. But hey man, oh man, it was. How do you manage to deal with, the whole fighting and family? And it's like, what are you talking about? I mean, what does this have to do with anything? And then Chael Sonnen, he's doing all right. I'm not hating on but it's just like. It was just like these guys were just buddies talking, and I know that's what they are. I know that's actually what they are. They're buddies talking. But if you watch other sports and there's people interviewing somebody, it doesn't look like just a bunch of buddies talking and trying to be everybody just trying to just trying to just compliments all day. Like, stop. All right, just interview, get some good questions, be professional, and move on. Stop. It seemed like they were stretching an interview. I don't know. Like, I watched that piece, and it was just, I wanted to cry. I didn't see the piece. Maybe it was really good. I don't even know what they're talking about, to be honest. But, oh, man, it's just so much. It's too much. Paulo Thiago versus CR Bahadazada. Damn, homeboy. This fight could have been 5 seconds long. The only thing was, Paulo Thiago waited until he's like, okay, I'm going to charge him now. And CR was just waiting. So if Paulo would have been like, let's go, right off the bat, it could have been the fastest knockout in UFC history. But he waited and waited for, about 40 seconds. Now's a good... This dude looked like he took a swan dive into the mat. He was like, wow, that's some serious power. Plus, Thiago was running wildly into, I don't know, if he was trying to throw a few strikes to clinch. But a good win for CR. Nice interview after. He was just kind of like, I want to fight. Paulo wanted to fight. We fought. Give me someone else who wants to fight. Real talk, what he's saying is, don't put me up against any of these grapplers, you know what I mean? Like, even though Paulo Thiago is one, but he managed to triumph over that. Good win for CR. I don't know who he should fight next, but let's give him another striker. Let's see how that works out. Dennis Siver versus Diego Nunes. By the way, for this whole thing, I was basically en route to a wedding and then watching it in the afternoons because I couldn't really watch it at night. I did miss this fight and I haven't had a chance to see it, and I just got home now, so I figured rather than give a recap 2 days later, I'll give it today, and this is I think one of the only fights I haven't seen. But Dennis Siver, from what I see, he controlled the fight all 3 rounds, and Diego Nunes didn't really have an answer to Dennis Siver striking. That's from what I see. So good win for Dennis Siver. It's his first fight at 145. Let's see how he does at his next fight at 145, because I don't think they're going to give him any easier matchups. So good work. John McGuire handling business as we all thought he would. Getting the fight to the ground, controlling, and then tapping out DeMarcus Johnson. That's pretty much how it goes. 15 wins, 10 losses for DeMarcus Johnson. By the way, the UFC 145, which I'm going to put up my predictions for tomorrow, man, that's got to be one of the most losingest record cards I've seen in a long time, man. If you add up the losses and compared to the wins on that card, there's a lot of losses. These guys are 10 losses, 13 wins, 11 losses. Crazy. People just losing all day. Brad Pickett versus Damasio Page. Solid win for Brad Pickett. He was able to just avoid the strikes of Page and inflict damage and then put it away in the second. It's kind of what everybody expected. Good win for Pickett. Let's give him another good fight. I mean, I think his fight against Barao, it was a tough situation. Barao is, one of the top guys in the division. So is Brad Pickett. So let's give him another test and let's see what's going on. Papi Abedi, get him out of the UFC. Very disappointed in Papi Abedi's time in the UFC. Clearly, he's not where he needs to be in the UFC. Losing Thiago Alves doesn't say that, not at all. But getting destroyed by James Head does say that. And by the way, just if you haven't seen this, I'm sure you have, but James Head gets the rear naked choke, wins, and then he just pushes him off him, get off me. It was funny as hell in a real disrespectful way. A lot of people roll people off, or this dude was just it was the equivalent of John Jones just dropping homeboy, except for you don't have to lay a man down here you go, man. I understand, but this was maybe worse because he actually pushed him off, almost did a little kick him off, stood up. The crowd started booing because I bet he's from he fights out of Sweden and stuff. So he's oh, give it to me, just a big attitude. Then he went on and he said something about my niece. He said my niece told me the last thing she said to me is if you mess with the bull, you get the horns. All right, now let's just take a look at this here. Now James Head, how old is he? I don't know. Let's say he looks like he's maybe 32 at least, okay? So James Head's 32. Let's say he's got a sister or a brother. The brother's got a kid. Now, brother could be probably the same age. The brother could be a little older. The brother could be younger. But anyway, you look at it, this niece is going to be around 15 to 10 years old, max. It's not going to be a 20-year-old niece. There are situations where you could have nieces that are real old, but most of the time, if I got a niece and I'm a 32-year-old man, this is gonna be a maximum 10 years old. That's if so and so had a kid at age 20. So you're telling me the last thing you remember was your niece, who's first of all a girl, niece, right? So not even a dude. Your niece was hey yo, Uncle Head, just remember, I don't know if that's her voice. Remember, if you mess with the bull, you get the... Stop that, James. Stop. It doesn't even make any sense. You won the fight, showed some crazy attitude at the end, real angry with the fans for some reason, and then you try and tell us a story about, your training coach, your 12-year-old training coach, Nietzsche, who really, your niece is probably 8 or 7 years old. And I don't know any 7-year-old who says, you mess with the bull, you get the horns. Remember that. Come on now. Cyril Diabate versus Tom DeBlas. Good win for Diabate. He was basically able to not get submitted. DeBlas probably gassed out in the first round. He did take the fight on 12 days notice, and Diabate has a lot of skill and a lot of experience. So the experience and the skill is probably what did in Tom DeBlas. Next. Carmon, solid win over Sidenblad. Not going to talk about that much. Nice submission. Madadi, same thing. First round didn't look too good for him, but he got that submission in the second round. Good job for Madadi. Same thing for Thorson. I want to see more of Madadi and Thorson. Who could they face next? I don't know, but let's get them back in there ASAP. And Jason Young did what he needed to do, and he got that win. He would have definitely been cut from the UFC if he lost to Wisely, but he did not. He was wise enough. All right, so there you go. That's my recap for UFC on Fuel 2. Just so you guys know what's happening next, I've decided a few things are going to go down. I just got to make them happen and be consistent. Those two things are actually a lot harder than people believe. Maybe just me. What I'm going to do from now on, moving forward, and from now on, meaning when I start, I'm just going to do a weekly podcast. So I got to set that up. I'm going to set up a weekly podcast. It'll be an hour-long podcast where I talk about, MMA-related news, right? I'm still going to do this video, the recap, the predictions. And then in the podcast, I'll talk about, future fights and whatnot. I think it's we call it maybe like Bet MMA Radio or something like that. Try and get one interview per, 15, 20-minute interview, whatever, per podcast. And I'm going to try and make it real interactive. So, if I get an interview, I'll ask you guys what questions do you think. We can do this on BetMMA's forum, which I'm going to clean up BetMMA.ca, make it real obvious. You can go get all the podcasts from the site. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I think BetMMA is still going to be a place where you can look at past the record for my picks, which I have to update, by the way. Still going to be a place where you can get some information on betting MMA. I'm going to be posting my podcast there, these videos there. I'm just going to get that place going. And there's the forum at BetMMA.ca. It's dead right now. Nobody's there because I'm not telling anybody to go there or there's nothing really happening. But then there's also the chat, which I'm neglecting to be there live during the actual fights. But I'm going to get that going so that we can be there watching the fights, chatting on, in the chat room, all that good stuff. All right, so I'm gonna try and get that started for let's see what's happening. UFC 145 is not gonna happen before that. UFC on Fox, let's say for the May 5th. Let's try and get it on for that. All right, so starting May 5th, I'm gonna try and get that podcast going and have all the little interactive stuff happening with myself, Bet MMA. The chat, the forum, all that good stuff. I'll keep you guys posted. And there you go. MMA, it's important. Peace.